Okay, so this all had a chance to dry, and I'm thinking about how we're gonna light this section. Also, just for the record, guys, I like to show you everything that I do, even my mistakes, so you guys don't make the same ones. So when it comes to the speaker, we had put the speaker in, and I had built a little bulkhead for the speaker to go up against. Well, I misjudged on the location. I thought it was far back enough, but it's not. And when this deck goes down, it's gonna be below the little areas where the water is allowed to run off. So I have to move that. And I thought I could just gently kind of pry the glue, the hot glue, but I ended up breaking a section of the railing on the ship. And it made me sick because I knew better than to do that. I should have just taken a gun, the hot glue gun, and then just remelted it to move it, but it's done. There's nothing I can do about it. And you can see now, the way I did it, I actually used the UV light glue, and I wanted to make it look like it was almost like an area that could open up. And that'll be the that'll be the third row in, or section of railing in. But that being said, so now we're going to take the speaker and we're going to have to move it. So I want to get the bulkhead out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the gun, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually remelt the hot glue so we can move it. Alright, again, I had to be really careful with these handrails. Because of the age, they're so brittle. You could just touch them and they'll literally disintegrate. So we got that section out. What I'm going to do is we're going to put a little bit of a bed of the glue, and we're going to let that set. Because what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make a tiny little support for the speaker. So if we put that right there, and of course we want to test it. I want to make sure it's not muffled, distorted in any way. So let's see how it sounds.
I swim now through a world in which all reference points have been altered. The walls of the monumental first-class hall are above and
See, what I had done was I had turned the volume down because it was too loud, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the volume
I
again.
feel I could get caught like a tuna in a giant net. Abruptly, I realized that
Here we
these
go.
nets are all that remain of the grand staircase. But a less definable sense of disorientation also haunts me. The Britannic's entire career was unintended. Planned for fashionable transatlantic crossings, she spent her brief life in the dark pursuits of war. Here in this room, where orchestras
Okay, so when it comes to lighting B deck, you remember we did the bow section, that's lit. We did the pilot house. Let's turn off the music or the sound. We did the pilot house. What I want to do is I want to light B deck. So let's go ahead and unplug this. So those of you who have built this model, you may realize that there's really nothing from B deck going up through the structure all the way to the top of the pilot house. So this is going to go on like that, and you can see there's really nothing to anchor additional lighting to. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make a bracket, and I don't know if we're going to do two LEDs or one. I don't want to do overkill, but each section of the ship would have more than one light lighting it. So I'm wondering if we do one on either side, and we can just tone it down. We could sand the bulb, or we can black it out like we've been doing. And now when you hear it click into place, there are also some supports that are on the inside of the hull that it's going to rest up against. So see how that looks? And then this is going to go on top. So there's a couple of things I want to do before we actually start to close in the ship. The main sections now, I wanted to get B deck secured and painted and put into place, but I don't want to secure it to the hull just yet. I wanted to make sure it's going to fit. There are a couple of structures now that when it comes to the top of the ship, I want to do the radar or the antenna tower. And what we got is we have the small motor to make the antenna bar rotate. So I don't want to close in the deck or permanently commit to having this section of the ship mounted permanently to the hull until we get that structure done and wired. We also have the ship's smokestack as well. That's a big structure that's going to go on, and then after that we can add everything to the structure as we go along. So addressing again how we're going to light B deck, let me get it back out so I can show you my idea or my plan. Alright, let's put this back aside now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a couple of the parts from the tree, and we're going to build like an armature that's actually going to support the lights. Again, this is why I like to keep all of the trees and everything through the whole duration of the build. All right. So now we could think about putting a couple of these across, and then we can actually mount the lights to them. So we want to make sure it's not going to interfere at all with going into the ship. So we can, maybe we'll start with this side. So I'm thinking right about over here. We can always trim if we need to. So let's cut this section. So we're going to put one aft and one forward. Just enough to tack it into position tentatively. And then just put a little bit more now just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. See, I want to make sure it's going to be good and solid. All right, we're going to do the next one now. And we'll do the same thing. Here we are. So that's pretty solid. Now we've got a base to anchor the lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an emery board, and I'm want to just kind of start to lightly sand the surface of the light. And again, it's not so much to sand it down, it's just to diffuse the light to take away that spotlight effect. There. Maybe a little bit of the sides. There we are. All right. We'll do the same thing for the other one now. Again, I just want to show you how we can, different ways of diffusing the light. Because if you remember at the front, I blacked out the tip. You could using the paint or the permanent magic marker. And this way here, we can do the same thing by sanding it down. It'll diffuse the light. It won't have that spotlight effect at the top. There. You can see how that spotlight effect is gone. So that looks good. Let's go ahead. We're going to test the other one now. Alright, so I think we can hot glue them into place. Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue so we can tack it into place. So I want it to, well, right about there. I want it to be higher than the bracket. So we're going to go ahead now, we're going to give it some glue. Here we are. So I want to make it so that we can bend the wire so it doesn't touch down onto the circuit board. So let's do the same thing for the forward one. Here we are. And make sure that they're both centered and that they're facing upwards. And this will also help lighting up the top. So that looks pretty good. I think what we can do, so what I was telling you is I want to take the wires and bend them fussily, because remember they're going to be going forward, and when we put this into the hull I don't want it to interfere. So let's go ahead and wire these together real quick, splice them, because remember all this wire is going to be cut. Alright, what we're going to do is I'm going to slip this back into position real quick, and I want to put it in place just to make sure that nothing interferes with the bottom of the hull. So let's go ahead and put this back into position. Alright, so we got the 4 bulbs on the top section. We're going to go ahead now, we're going to address this mess. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to splice all of these together. Alright, so all the negatives are stripped, and what I want to do is I want to kind of group them together. Just like that. Now I want to do the same thing for the positive leads. So what I want to do is we're going to make sure these work. So let me get the 9-volt battery. As you can see, all 4 are working. All right. So now that's a lot more manageable. And if we need to cut these down even more, we will, just because I don't want them to interfere with the lights in the bow section. All right. Now, remember, all that was coming out of this mess was the lead as well as the wires for the lights for B deck. We're gonna cut these. Then we got to do the same thing. I'm going to splice in the positives and the negatives. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that they work. So we're going to, yeah, see how those are both coming on? Nice. Right now I'm going to keep the lead, or the hot, coming as long as possible. And what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in A deck, the pilot house, and now we're going to kind of gently put this into position. Again, tentatively, nothing is glued in place. But for the first time, you can see how it's kind of gonna look. See when it clicks into place like that. So that, wow, that's starting to look pretty cool. So now let's give it the real test. And get rid of. So now when we plug it in, hopefully everything will light up. Look at that. You can see the lights in the bow. You can see the lights in the wheelhouse. And now, and again, don't worry about the light leaks and stuff. We'll fix all that when we glue it into position. Because right now it's just tentative. So let's see. I'm going to take you off the tripod. But as of right now, I think all the lighting is complete. The only thing we're going to need to put on before we start soldering is going to be the mast.